So this wouldn't be a Creatures Macabre video if I didn't go into some stuff about etymology and language. Some top facts about the colour green that relate to linguistics. So the word green comes from, well, Old English. Green, which is from the German word grün, which has the same root as grass and grow. Ultimately from the Proto-Indo-European root, gre, meaning to grow. So yeah, there's something intrinsically new, youthful and fresh about green given its root and given its linguistic history, and therefore its kind of semantic place in our minds. So a really interesting thing is that languages kind of tend to introduce colour terms in a certain order. Okay, so there's actually a common order to the way that these words enter the language, and it goes something like this. Okay, so number one, black or dark is often the first thing to be added, and actually you can kind of understand why. Everything maybe by default is light or white, but the black or dark place is the place where maybe you shouldn't go. So yeah, a good place to distinguish and a good opposite to your general default, which is light or day. So yeah, black or dark is the first term to be introduced. This is followed by white or light. So maybe initially you kind of want the opposite to be distinguished, i.e. black or dark as an opposite to the norm. But then of course you want to call the norm something. So yeah, white or light is the second kind of colour term that's introduced into language. It kind of comes second in the general order. So coming into third place, red. Another danger colour, I guess. Another colour in nature which tends to signify don't eat me or don't touch me. So yeah, red. Next, and you can go figure out your own theories for this, but number 4 is yellow or green. Number 5 is green or yellow. Number 6 is blue. Number 7 is brown. And coming at number 8, you have terms like purple, pink, orange and grey. So yeah, you can kind of see why like green and yellow would come in. I mean, you're fairly close to the top after red. It signifies ripeness or, something natural, something bountiful, something good. However, blue, you'll notice, does come relatively far down, especially as quite a common colour in nature, or so we think. So actually in many languages, what English calls blue and green still are treated as being in the same category. English actually calls these grue languages, where they just don't distinguish between green or blue. For the speakers of these languages, the distinction just simply isn't as important. So yeah, just one of those things, and quite a cool kind of fact. These languages, for example, are Vietnamese, Japanese, classical Chinese. They're not all Southeast Asian, those are just some famous examples. So some indigenous languages of Papua New Guinea, for example, and some indigenous languages of Australia, languages in West Africa, also don't really make a distinction between blue and green. But why does this happen? Well, the human eye doesn't really have a strong distinction between where blue begins and green begins, right? So you kind of got blue, cyan, and green at different nanometers on the kind of visible spectrum. And different languages just choose to place a line in different places, or they simply don't place a line at all. So one common misconception is that people think that speakers of grue languages, i.e. where they don't have a distinction between blue and green, can't distinguish between blue and green at all. But that's just not the truth. The difference just lies in categorization and naming, not in colour vision. But apparently having that distinction actually affects how quickly you can distinguish that change in colour. So for example, when blue kind of turns to green, apparently people who don't have a word for the distinction will notice that change a bit slower than the people who do have a word for green and blue distinctly. So I guess having a word or a term for something, of course, will allow you to quickly recognize something. And yeah, ultimately there must have been some kind of benefit for the speakers of that language to actually have that distinction in the first place, which is why they had a different word for blue and green. But in another language, they'll probably just see this all as one category, and if they need to distinguish it, they might say leaf coloured or sky coloured. They might make the distinction that way. It's not like they don't have a way of expressing it, it's just they don't have a very succinct small term for it. So blue actually surprisingly few things in nature are naturally blue. Blue is actually one of the rarest colours in nature. Very few plants, mammals or minerals are naturally blue. And blue pigments are actually kind of relatively uncommon. Going back to the grue languages where there's no necessary distinction between blue and green, well, one theory around Southeast Asian languages have some important examples. For example, like Vietnamese, Japanese and Korean. Well, apparently all of these these languages were influenced by classical Chinese, whose character actually covered a broad blue-green range. So that historical character actually influenced those other languages and left its imprint. So kind of that idea that blue and green need not be distinguished. So yeah, classical Chinese influenced those other languages, and that's why it is thought that Southeast Asian languages don't necessarily have to have that distinction. It's just a legacy thing. So did you know that the human eye is the most sensitive to the colour green, allowing us to distinguish more shades of it than any other colour, which is why night vision goggles are green, as it's the colour that we can pick up like the most hues and textures with. So I thought that fact was kind of fun. Basically, under the perfect conditions, human eyes can distinguish millions and millions of colours. Most variations come within the colour green. Weirdly, or not so weirdly, considering how many variations of green there are in nature, how we as hunter-gatherers used to forage in lots of foliage and bushes and grass, which all are, well, green. So one question I was wondering was, why do colourblind people always seem to not be able to see the colour green? It's like quite a common thing. And the short answer is it depends on the type of colour blindness. Apparently not all colourblind people actually have a problem seeing green. So here's what's happening, right? So this is how normal colour vision works. Most people have 3 types of cone cells in their retina. So they have S cones, which detect short wavelengths, so that's blue, M cones which detect medium wavelengths, so that's your greens, and your L cones which detect long wavelengths, which is red. And what your brain's doing all the time is comparing the signals to each of those cones to detect colour. The most common type is red-green colour blindness. Apparently 8% of people in the Northern European population have some kind of colour blindness or deficiency. The issue is that the green sensors, the M cones, are like missing or just not working as well. So yeah, that's the reason why they can't perceive the changes between green and red. Symbolism and culture. Well, green is widely thought to symbolise hope, safety, and fertility. In ancient Egypt, it represented hope and the joy of spring, and temple floors were often painted green for this reason. In Europe, green historically symbolised wealth, which was associated with merchants and bankers. It also is the national colour of Ireland, and it was once the choice for wedding gowns. Some fun facts. Green was once upon a time one of the most dangerous colours to wear. So in the 1800s, a brilliant pigment called Paris green was introduced to the textile industry, and it contained arsenic. People wore green dresses, they decorated their homes green with green wallpaper, they even used green toys, and all contained the toxic arsenic. And damp conditions which were rife at the time would release the spores of mold into the air and obviously make the air highly toxic, leading to sickness and death. Suicides apparently dropped by 34% after Blackfriars Bridge was painted green. One weird thing is that some people think that tennis balls are green. No, they're not. They're yellow. But some people think they're green. I've had this argument with many, many people, and apparently it's a well-known fact that, yeah, some people think they're green. So yeah, it's all about the way that you distinguish green on that colour spectrum. It's all about the way that your eyes are perceiving things according to how sensitive, or your perception basically in your retina. So yeah, there you go. Are they green or are they yellow? Your answers in the comment section, please. Tennis balls, are they green or are they yellow? I vote yellow. But yeah, I've had this argument with lots of people, and lots of people think green. So I hope you've enjoyed my little missive on green and some yellow with a little bit of red in there. Personally, green is, I think, my favourite colour, alongside turquoise. But then turquoise, you could argue, is a shade of green. Or maybe you don't categorize it differently to blue. Who knows? Why don't you let me know what you think of the colour green in the comment section. It's been so much fun. Much love. Mwah, 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 mwah.